Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Yes We Can podcast. I am so excited for our guest today. Today we have on Tim Bounds, who is our pastor at The Crossing. While Kyle was alive, we would attend church and got to know Tim. And he came and walked by our side while Kyle was battling cancer and was there all the way through the end. So I am excited to have him on the show today. He is now running a successful business. I'm excited for him to share what that looks like. So here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kara, for having me. Oh my gosh, it's just what a privilege and just how fun it is to get to be with you.
I know.
So thanks. This is great.
We always have fun together.
We do. Yeah, sometimes we get a little off track,
Yeah,
but you know, it happens.
We steer back. We're
We
good.
will. That's right.
Okay, so who are you? Tell us who you are. Where do you come from? Who is Tim Bounds?
So I grew up here in St. Louis. My wife and I, and I'll, that's later in the story when I got married. That wasn't early in the story, but we always thought that we would live somewhere like East Coast, like Southern East Coast, like the Carolinas or something like that.
Yeah.
But God called us back here to the St. Louis area, and it took probably about 15 years of living here before we figured out why we were here. But over time, we just started to fall in love with this community, the city. I always tell people I love St. Louis with all of its charm and with all of its problems. So anyway, I'm here in St. Louis. And I am the youngest of 3 kids.
Okay.
So my sister and brother are 13 years and 11 years older than I am.
No kidding.
It's true. So I'm like the cross between a youngest and an only child. Read like nightmare of a kid, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
I was always entertaining my family and always keeping things interesting and always letting people wait on me and bring me food and carry my luggage for me when we travel and those kinds of things.
Love it.
So yeah, lots of fun. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say we have that in common because my younger sister is 13 and a half years younger than me.
Oh, yeah.
My brother's 6 and then she's 13 and a half. So
she's the baby.
Yes,
Yeah.
but also has only child syndrome. Sorry, Mary. Love you. But
It's wherever you are, Mary, it's a part of
Yeah.
how we grew up, right?
She's in Singapore, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's she doing in Singapore?
She took an international business internship. She was at Mercer in Macon, Georgia, full ride scholarship. And she took an international internship in Singapore and just stayed, finished her career.
Amazing.
She is phenomenally successful for a 20, however old you are now, Mary.
Yeah.
In her 20s. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a whole nother.
So in my family growing up, I feel like my sister and brother felt like they were a second set of parents for me. So I have a funny story I'll tell you in a second. But did you feel that way with your sister Mary?
So because I was so much older, I had so many other things going on, but yes.
A little bit?
Yeah.
So one time my brother and sister were stuck with me on a Friday night because my parents had plans, right? And they were teenagers and they wanted to go out and hang out with their friends. And the movie Gremlins had come into the theater. Have I told you this story?
I don't think so.
So my sister really wanted to go see Gremlins and she had her, I don't know how old I was, probably 4 years old, 4-year-old brother in tow. And I was like, I don't want to go see it. It looks scary. And my sister said, no, it's about this cute little furry guy named Gizmo. You'll love it. And I was traumatized by my sister taking me to that movie. So that's just a glimpse into what it was like to be me growing up.
This is all starting to make sense.
It all makes sense. Yeah,
it's all starting to make sense.
It's why I'm jittery and jumpy. And no, it's not true.
And
It's
afraid
not
of the
true.
dark.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
So funny.
All right. So born and raised here, youngest of 3 in St. Louis.
Right.
Where'd you go to school? Of course, everybody wants to know.
Oh, here in St. Louis, like I was a Parkway Central kid.
Okay.
So yeah, I actually loved it. All the stereotypes about growing up in Parkway Central are true. But I had great friends. We had a great time. Some of the most fun years of my life were in that high school. So
Awesome.
yeah. And then went to, I kind of zigzagged in college a little bit, but I always tell people I went to Truman State University, which is up in Northeast Missouri, and loved it there, met my wife there. We were a part of a community together that was just had some cool things going on. And so Kim and I met at Truman.
Wait, question.
Yeah, please.
What year did you graduate?
So that's a whole, how I said I zigzagged?
Yeah.
I graduated high school in 97.
That's what I needed. Okay.
Okay. That help?
Got it. It helps.
Okay, I'm not sure what it helps with, but there you
well,
go.
I have one of my best friends went to Truman, and so I'm like, we're about the same age.
Oh yeah, like
but,
what years?
Would have been 99 to No, 2003 to 2007.
Okay, so we didn't overlap.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And I left Truman before I graduated.
Okay.
I ended up finishing here in St. Louis. So my degree's from Missouri Baptist
Got
University.
it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you? You're good. You're good. This is good.
All right, cool.
Did you know you? What did you want to be growing up?
Oh, great question. Kira, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian when I was a kid.
Understandable.
I did end up finding a job where I could speak in front of people and occasionally make them laugh. So that was fun.
You did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then I wanted to be a psychologist because I thought I wanted to help people understand their lives, deal with their emotions, that kind of thing, which is something I was trying to figure out how to do myself as I was getting older. Then I wanted to be a musician. So I sing, I play the guitar, that kind of stuff. I wanted to be a singer-songwriter more than anything, kind of like a Jack Johnson, Ed Sheeran kind of guy. At the time, it was more like Paul Simon, those kinds of guys. But that's who I wanted to be. And in college, I gave it up. I was horrible at writing songs. I could sing, I could play guitar, could not write a song to save my life. It just something about the format was hard for me. So I gave that up. And it was about that time that I was probably 22, 23 years old where I started to really take it seriously that maybe I wanted to work in a church and do ministry stuff. And so I did that really early on and was in ministry, worked for churches for 25 years. So, yeah.
Were you raised in a home where you guys went to church, where faith was important?
Yes. So the way I always explain it is I grew up in church. We went almost every weekend. My parents were very active. I was very active. They had a great kids and youth program at this kind of small Methodist church that I grew up in. And, but what I tell people is I always believed in God. I always thought that church was a good thing and the Bible was interesting, all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until I was in high school that it started to become a really personal thing. I feel like everybody has to go through that phase of taking whatever your spirituality is, whatever your kind of faith system is. At some point, I encourage people to take it seriously and to lean into it and make it personal. And for me, that happened when I was in high school.
Was there something that happened in high school? Were you struggling? What do you know?
Yeah.
What was it?
Well, so let's see. I don't know how deep do you want to go into that, Kira? Do you want to? you could be my psychologist.
I'm trying to make you cry. That's the goal.
Is that the goal?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not hard.
Yeah.
I was a puny kid, so I was very skinny. I still am, not because I work out or like run or anything, but just because it's my genetics. I was very unathletic and had a hard time growing up, like junior high, connecting with other guys my age. Most of my friends were girls. We would hang out and talk about girl things. I was very comfortable with that. And wanted to hang out with the guys and felt like one of the guys, but just couldn't quite figure that out. And so dealt with a lot of insecurity and a lot of that kind of stuff. And it was in my youth group at this small church where I not only first felt accepted, people kind of embraced me and welcomed me in.
For who you were.
But what's that?
For who you were.
That's exactly right. But they started to notice certain gifts and talents that I had and my ability to understand people, my ability to do the musical stuff, to get up in front of a crowd and those kinds of things, and started to bring that out of me and encourage it and champion me. And so I really found a sense of belonging in that youth group. And that was what was going on. And then, I could get really personal and talk about how that translated to my relationship with Jesus when that started to become really personal. The short version is I found that there was no one on earth who accepted me and loved me and demonstrated that love for me in the same way that Jesus could. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So in high school, got personal.
Yeah.
Then you went to college, and so what were you studying in college? Did you already mention this?
I was studying music.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
My degree, like I said, I started to transition out of that and think about doing ministry. So came home and was at Missouri Baptist. My degree is actually in religious ed.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then later, many years later, I went back to seminary and got my master's in theology. So,
and your wife stayed at Truman?
She did. Yep.
And you guys stayed in touch,
We did.
continued to date. Okay.
That's right.
So what did you do then after you graduated?
So by the time I finished school, we had gotten married, and I was already doing youth ministry at another church.
Okay.
So yeah, we just started our family, and I just kept doing what I was doing. Worked at that small church as a youth pastor for about 5 years, and then left that gig and worked in a call center for a while, trying to make ends meet, trying to pay the bills and all that kind of stuff.
Plot twist. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was actually a year and a half. I hated it. I hated everything about it. But I'm so thankful for that season, which is often what happens. I'm grateful for it because I learned some things about work, about showing up to a job that you don't enjoy, about kind of how people tick. I learned some really great, by the time I finished that job after a year and a half, I'd become an expert on like computer shortcuts. Because what else did you have to do during the day? I was just answering calls and figuring out how to navigate all this stuff. So all that translated when I ended up going to work at the Crossing where we met. I had a sense of work that some people who just go straight into ministry don't have, if that makes sense. So I was grateful for it. But during that time, Kim and I started going to the Crossing.
Okay.
So we were attending there for about a year and a half.
Which campus, or how big was the Crossing at that point?
At that time, it was just one campus. It was
One
Chesterfield.
campus. Okay.
Yep. There was 3 services. We were in the old auditorium. For people who are familiar with that building, it's now called the Hub. That room has gone through 3 different transitions, and we were there when it was about a 600-seat room.
Okay.
And about 2 months into us attending, they knocked out a wall and expanded it to a 900-seat room, roughly. And so it was exciting. We added a service. There was a lot of growth happening. And I remember starting to think maybe that I wanted to get back into ministry, and I wanted to keep. Of course, I hated that job. So it was like, I want to get back into working for a church.
Then you felt called. That's what I was wondering. Were you going to church thinking, I want to be up there. Like, I can share the message. Was that going through your head as you're attending church, or did it took a while?
That's a good question. At that time, and I wonder if people who are watching or listening to this can relate to this. I think early on in our careers, there was a time where I watched what was happening on the stage. I watched, pastors who were doing great stuff and doing what I imagined I wanted to do. But at that time, it was even the voice in my head that said, I think I could do that. I would shush that voice, right? And go, yeah, that's too big. You're probably not good enough to do that stuff. So if you could just get a gig here so I ended up getting a job at the Crossing as an intern. That's how I started. And part of that was because I was like, if I can work here, that's a win. And whatever I end up doing, I wouldn't have imagined that I would have gotten to do some of the cool stuff that I got to do over the years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what did Kim do for work?
So she's in education.
Okay.
So she taught elementary school for several years. When our boys were little, she stepped away from that and was doing some freelance stuff. She loves education. So she was doing like curriculum writing and editing. She ended up becoming a coach for a math organization that helps elementary school math teachers. So she's kind of made a career as a math coach.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very foreign. I wouldn't.
I know.
Cannot relate.
I mean, I live with her, and it's foreign for me. She used to just tell me. She'd be like I'd get home, and she'd go, "Okay, I need to tell you about my work day," and I'd go, "Okay," and she goes, "It's okay. You don't have to care." And then she would go through it all.
Like, I care. I just can't. I can't compute what you're saying. It's another language. But go ahead, honey.
It's like I care about you.
Yes.
But when you're telling me about strategies to teach kids simple addition, I'm cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
You do you.
That's right. That's awesome. And she's great at it. So I don't mean to diminish it. I'm really proud of her, but it's just so the other side of your brain, right? And so yeah.
That side's dead for me. So maybe not dead, but yeah. And real quick, you mentioned your children. Real quick, how old are they?
Yep.
When did you go ahead? Kids.
When did I?
Well, I mean, how quickly in your marriage did you have kids? How many did you have? How old are they?
Yep. So 2 boys.
Okay.
Micah is 21 years old now. Josiah is 17. He'll be 18 in August. Which we had kids pretty pretty quickly. I think we were married in 2003. Micah was born in 2005. So it was pretty quick. We got married. We thought we'd wait a few years. And then I remember one day us having a conversation where we were like, I don't know what we're waiting for.
Right.
That sounds fun. Let's have kids. So we did.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Was it fun?
I mean, so much of it is fun. We've had a blast.
Yes.
I love my boys.
Yes.
And we've had some great adventures together. And then also, I don't know. Nothing in life is easy, and being a parent is at times exhausting. And at times you look in the mirror and you go, "I got nothing.
I got nothing." Are you sure that you picked me to parent? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So those of you that are thinking about having children, they are quite the blessing. But I would not use fun.
No.
As the leading.
It's not the lead word.
Not the lead word.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
It's definitely a word that's on the list.
Right. It's a part of it.
It's a part of it.
Yeah, the word I would use is life. It's life.
Right.
I mean, I think, not saying that having kids is for everyone, but but the reason we make the decision to get married, to have kids, to do things, to pick a career and that kind of thing is because we want to experience life. And life is rich and it's full of joy and fun and great stuff, and then it is full of hardship and struggle and pain and stress and all of those kinds of things, and that's just life.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people, unless you're in it, it does appear to be fun and easy, and I'll just naturally be, of course I'm going to be a great mom, and I know when I had started having children, I was like, what just happened? Who am I? I had, I've shared with you and I've shared with my audience, I had really bad postpartum with my first kid because I was like, my life just took a total, 180.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I actually don't know how to be a mom and don't know what to do. So I don't mean to having kids is amazing. And it is fun. It is fun. It just made me chuckle as someone in their 20s and they're like, yeah, it'd be fun. Let's just have kids.
I think you're just being honest.
Yeah,
like you look at your kids and it's like, what a gift and a blessing. And I wouldn't have life any other way. And yet at the same time, it's interesting when a kid comes into the world, I think a lot of men, when they become a dad, look at it and they go, oh my gosh, the world does not revolve around me anymore. Like suddenly I have this child that I feel like I need to give myself away to. It's my responsibility now. And mostly view that as a positive. I'm sure some guys don't, but I think most guys see that as a positive. For women, that postpartum, I mean, you see it, but it's almost like you just lost a piece of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to, who am I now? And I now have to give away a piece of who I am daily to make sure that this kid survives.
Survives.
Yeah.
Right. So I have a good friend who, her daughter-in-law's pregnant, and it's interesting because the moment you get pregnant, it's not just you anymore. There's someone else in there, and that is a definite mind shift because you are now the home of an actual human. Yeah. And so your body, changes, and it's the same thing once you have the baby. If you're able to nurse or you want to nurse or you're blessed, feel called to do that, you are feeding that child. It's a whole nother ball game. Yeah. So it's a very serious thing if you're thinking about it, but it's a big blessing. Anyway, we can move on from the kids.
We promise it's a blessing, right?
Promise. Underline. We definitely highlight, definitely a blessing.
Yes.
Pro children over here.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So, and your kids are incredibly talented. They're musicians
they are.
And
Yeah, I don't take credit for that. As soon as I saw that my kids wanted to do music, I immediately started throwing instruments at them, and like everything I could to encourage it. So there's that. But my oldest, Micah, has passed me up in his guitar playing and his understanding of the theory of music, and I kind of marvel at what he's learned on his own about all of that. He plays cello and he's great at it. He was studying that in college and is kind of shifting, trying to figure out what's next. But and then Josiah, he's also a great singer. He sings at our church. He, plays saxophone, so he's got those musical chops as well. He also, and kind of leans more towards this, he's just great with people. And it's really fun to watch the way he welcomes people in, the way he can communicate with grown-ups and, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that is maybe just to try to polish what we were saying earlier. That is maybe what's the best thing about having children who are now moving into adulthood is you get to see them become something.
And that's fun.
Oh, it's amazing.
That's fun,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, it's amazing.
I can't wait. It's even fun for my children, almost 9, almost 7, and 5.5. Now they're playing sports.
Yeah.
And they're doing even the art projects they do at school. It's like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And watching them play sports and I love sports, but it's so like how excited I am that my son hit a ball.
Right.
You know what I mean? And ran to first base.
It's huge. It's everything.
Huge.
Yeah.
Like his baseball game got canceled last week because the grounds were too wet. And I was legitimately bummed that I couldn't watch the chaos that is when 5 and 6-year-olds, are given a bat and thrown a ball.
Yeah. We have to be careful that we don't live vicariously through our kids. And I've experienced that in some ways myself where I've had to caution. But at the same time, I think as we get older, it's easy, if we're not careful, to lose our sense of wonder. And I experience wonder when I see my kids doing stuff.
I love that.
And it's profound.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So you got a couple kids under your belt.
Yep.
Okay. You start at the had you had them before going to the crossing? Or?
Micah was 1 year old when we first started attending.
Okay.
And then Josiah was born in August of 2008. So it was just as I was stepping permanently onto the staff there.
Okay. So you started as an intern.
Yep.
And then
yeah.
What was next?
Well, and then after that internship was only for a year.
Okay.
And so at the as we got towards the end of that, there was no guarantee that I would have a job. That's a whole other story for another time. But it ended up them taking a risk on me, and it wasn't a risk for me. It was like, yes, absolutely, this is what I want to do. And so I came on to the staff there when there were basically only 5 pastors.
Well, I thought you started in music. No, you didn't start as a music.
So that was kind of what got my foot in the door. Was that I got to lead worship there and I got to sing, and I had been doing that as a volunteer, and then I did it as a staff person. Yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
When they hired me as a pastor, I was charged with creating some new opportunities for discipleship and growth, and then also that fall, my first year on staff, they asked me to teach a weekend, and that was the first time really. I had taught in some other contexts, but that was the first time that I and others kind of looked at me and said, "Oh, there's something there." So, yeah. Now, if you go back and watch that, like, you can see me trying to copy off of our lead pastor, Greg, as much as possible. And I was still trying to find my voice, and it was very awkward and whatever, but there was still something that we all observed, including myself. Like, it surprised me. I went, oh, I think I have a knack for this.
Awesome.
And then it took me a long time to develop, but yeah.
But you felt called. It felt right. Like you were following God's direction and his purpose for you.
Yeah. It was like all those threads that were in my childhood of enjoying to perform, enjoying being in front of people, the stand-up comedian thing, the psychologist thing, all those goofy things. I mean, that was when I was little, right? But all of those kind of came together, and I went, oh, this is an opportunity for me to be in front of people, which I love, and be the center of attention, right? Like the youngest child that I was. But to do so in a way that's helpful and productive and actually can encourage people to grow and heal from things that are going on in their lives and draw closer to God. And it really turned into one of those things where it was like, oh, this is what I was made to do. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how big was the church when you came on as a pastor?
Yeah, we had, like I said, we had just one campus. We moved to 4 services fairly quickly. So I would say, like, at that time, the Crossing was probably around 2,500, 3,000 people, which is already a huge church. But it didn't show any signs of slowing. Like, it was growing, and it was those were really exciting years. I mean, it all has been, but it was exciting to see what's next. So.
Yeah, and for those of you that are watching that are not from St. Louis, are not familiar, the Crossing is a non-denominational church that now has how many campuses?
4 campuses.
4 campuses. How many people?
I mean, I don't know what the numbers are these days because I'm a little out of the loop, but I would say probably around 7,000, 8,000 in attendance on a given weekend when you add all the campuses up. And then also online, there's tons of people. All the churches who have online services are struggling with the metrics of that, so it's hard to say. But there's a lot of people who watch online globally, and so that's exciting too. So yeah, a lot of people tuning in.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So more about you came on staff. There were 5 pastors at the time, or 5.
There were 5. Yeah, there was kind of the senior level pastors, and then a youth pastor or 2, and me. And then very quickly that started to expand. The internship that I was a part of was kind of a pilot. It was an experiment to see if we had something, and we did. So we created what we called a pastoral residency, and through that we just started adding pastors, hiring them from the outside. When we went to multi-site, we started hiring pastors for those campuses. So now I think there's probably well over 20 pastors on staff.
Wow.
And that's been that way for a while. But
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome people. Like, that was one of the most fun things about working at the Crossing, was that I got to work with a bunch of my closest friends. And they still are. They're just great.
Yeah.
Great folks.
Amazing. I mean, Kyle and I was raised Catholic. He was raised Presbyterian. And when we decided we wanted to spend our life together, we wanted to find a church together, and we went to some Catholic churches and went to some Presbyterian churches, and I wasn't really into the Presbyterian church. He wasn't really into the Catholic church. And so we had he was a partner at Jones, as you know. We had some of his good friends, suggested we go to the Crossing, and we went, and that was it. The music was phenomenal, the worship, which is a way that I really truly feel close to God is when I'm worshiping, right?
Yeah,
and then you and Greg were phenomenal pastors and helped grow our faith. And so it's the Crossing is a very special place.
Yeah. Yeah.
For us. And, we went through all 3, having all 3 babies, and it was an amazing place.
I mean, that is what a church at its best can be for somebody, is a place where you, like you just said, you made friends, you connected with your pastors, you raised a family there. It becomes this community that kind of anchors you to life as you go through it. And life changes and people move on and things like that. But I still can look back on all the churches I've been connected to in my life, and I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of those communities,
Yeah.
So I love that. And what a cool thing for me to be a part of the pastoral team there and to develop relationships with people like you. The story that you and I get to share together now is irreplaceable. It's precious.
Totally a God created. In every way. Yeah. So, all right. So how long were you on staff there?
Just shy of 18 years.
Wow.
Long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you were amazing up there. We all love you. And so can we talk about how you and I first connected? I don't remember. Do you?
It was actually I do. It was you guys, I think you and Kyle, were you attending the Fenton campus?
Yes.
Okay.
We started in Chesterfield and then went to the Fenton campus.
And so the pastoral team, got wind that you guys were going through what you were going through, Kyle's diagnosis, and Ron Sweet, who's my good friend, who was the campus pastor at Fenton at the time, he got the call to basically give you guys a pastoral visit. And we often will team up on those kinds of things.
Yes.
Right? Because
it's all coming back to me. Yes.
Yeah. And so we came and visited with you guys, and I think Ron walked with you for a season, but then I think when I don't remember the specifics then because I was kind of out of it, but then at some point it was like the church needed to lean back in. I think you'd gotten some bad news, things were taking a turn.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's really where I stepped in and we started to form the relationship that we now have.
Yeah, that's right. It's all coming back to me now.
Is it?
Yeah, because a lot, you black out. Your brain protects you.
Oh, I know. Well, and of all the things you were navigating, the pastor at the church and who's like that, that's not a detail that you retain. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Most of you, if not all of you, know, unless you're a new watcher or viewer, my husband Kyle had pancreatic cancer, was diagnosed when my kids were 4, 2, and 11 months, and he battled for 17 months. And it was a battle. We
What
were
year
at
was
war.
the diagnosis?
October of 21.
Yeah.
And then he battled for 17 months. So April of 2023 is when he took his last breath.
Yeah.
And you were there.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the last days.
In the last days. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I remember it well.
I bet you do. I mean, I don't know if you do, but I remember
No, I do.
I remember those last days well. So, okay, where do we go? How deep do we go with this?
This
So,
is your show, Kara. You
it
get to
is
decide.
correct, but
Yeah.
you are the guest, so you're the main event here.
I feel captive, though. I feel like wherever you want to go, it's where we're going.
So vulnerable. All right. So, what goes through your head when you get calls like that? A family,
Yeah.
What's and what were you thinking when you heard about Kyle and my like what?
This is going to be a shocking answer for some people, but honestly, the first thing that goes through your head is, "Oh no." It's your brain kind of forks, and on one side you think that poor couple, the poor family, what they're going through. Oh my gosh, that's awful news. So that absolutely, and you begin to pray almost right away. But then the other thought is, I was going to go to the park with my boys this afternoon, and now I'm going to a hospital, or now I'm going to go sit with a family or something like that. And so the selfish side of it is a little bit of like oh no, my plans just changed, and I'm going to walk now into somebody else's pain, which I don't want to speak for everybody. I think there's some people who are wired in such a way that when they hear that, they're like, bring it on. That's great. I am not wired that way. My tendency is to avoid pain, and so I had to force myself in those moments to remind myself that this is also a part of what it means to be a pastor, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the many reasons I wanted and asked you to come on the show is, to allow people to see and hear and know that you guys are humans too. Like, yes, you're on stage and you share God's word, but you're also a human. You also have a life, and you also have those feelings and emotions. And,
Sure.
I don't know how much they share that while you're in seminary school. That, by the way,
Yeah.
Seminaries
are trying to figure out how to emphasize like self-care and like healthy boundaries and how pastors can find ways to recover and to take care of themselves and those kinds of things because of the weight. Now, it's not, pastoral ministry is not the only vocation that has weight.
Of course not,
we
right.
would talk to like first responders and doctors and people in counseling and social workers, and the list goes on. People carry tremendous weight in those roles, but pastor's one of them. And I think in the last even 20 years, there's been a lot of emphasis on a lot of pastors burn out. A lot of pastors don't stay very long. They leave. That's kind of a problem in the church that they're trying to figure out. And so we're all trying to figure out how to take better care of ourselves because it's a lot.
It's a lot,
Yeah.
especially when you're a pastor of a church of 7, 8, 9,000 people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And it's, a church that size, we have to figure out how to care for people at scale. And so we depend a lot on volunteer leaders and small groups, but when it comes to the kind of stuff like you and Kyle were going through, at some point you need a pastor to show up and be able to walk with you through that. And so that's a part of the job, part of the calling. And I will say this, and I might be getting ahead of where you wanted to go a little bit, but
Go ahead.
what I started to learn over the years of doing it, it never got easier for me to walk into those kinds of situations. But what I used to tell younger pastors as we were like training them is that these kinds of moments are the inner sanctum, the holy of holies of what it means to be a pastor. So I don't know if everybody will understand that phrase, holy of holies. So can I just give you a little bit of...
Please do.
Just a little Jewish history context?
Yes, please.
The Jewish people, up until the temple was destroyed in 70 AD, their worship of God was all around this temple that is, if you go to Jerusalem today, the Wailing Wall is all that remains of the temple. But they would go there, and that's where they would worship, and that temple had a room in the center of it that was called the Holy of Holies, and it was divided from the rest of the temple by a really thick curtain. And you were only allowed to enter in there if you were a priest, and if you were a priest, you were only allowed to enter in there like once a year or something like that. It was considered to be literally where the presence of God was. And if you were not completely holy, completely righteous, which no one is, it was like life-threatening to walk into that room because his holiness would be enough to destroy you, right? So the apocryphal story, I don't know how true it is, you don't see it in scripture, but it was that when a priest went into the Holy of Holies, you had to tie a rope around their ankle so that if they died while they were in that room, somebody could drag their body out. I mean, that's how they thought about the Holy of Holies, right? So it's but in a really beautiful way, it's where you go to be in the presence of God, right? So when I say walking through grief, walking through illness, terminal illness, walking through death with families is the Holy of Holies of being a pastor. That's what I'm talking about. It's, you wouldn't want to go in there. There's fear associated with it because we're all afraid of death. But in it, you learn the most about yourself. You see God at work. You learn the most about people. You feel the presence of God in a tangible way. And it's always a transformative, meaningful experience that you never get used to, right?
So when you leave those scenarios, what do? Do you compartmentalize? Are you still thinking about it and praying about it? Does it totally cloud your mind? How do you function after going to meet with the family in that situation?
Yeah, it depends. I probably didn't do it perfectly, so sometimes I'd come home and just be cranky or be quiet with my family or something like that. But at my best, I found that I needed to do two things. One was to completely decompress. So to be honest, it was go do something fun or, something like that. But then also to make sure that I didn't miss the opportunity to take time to reflect. And so it became like mission critical for me as I went through some of those things to prioritize like time in the morning for prayer and for seeking God and journaling and writing about some of the things I was feeling just to process it. So in the moment, as you walk out or whatever, it's like, okay, I need to get back to normality as quickly as possible because that I walked into somebody else's pain, but that's not where my life is right now. And that helped me cope.
Did you have a mentor that helped you through that, or is that something you came up with on your own?
Some of that was, I mean, the answer is yes. I had tremendous mentors, counselors that I would seek out when I was going through that stuff, older pastors who were always so helpful, friends who I could just call and kind of vomit to, and they would help me process. I remember Greg, our lead pastor, the first time I did a funeral. So I think I told you this. My first funeral that I did at the Crossing, I had been in ministry for a while, but I'd never done a funeral. So my first one was for a 6-year-old boy. My second one was for a child that was born premature and didn't make it. And then my third one was for a 12-year-old boy. So it was like baptism by fire into doing funerals and that kind of thing. I'm not saying that so anybody can feel bad for me, feel bad for the families that had to go through that, but it was a lot. And I remember feeling the weight of all of that. And our lead pastor, Greg, at one point looking at me and with tears in his eyes, he said, but you are the one God has chosen to walk through this with these families. And he said, and you will pastor differently after this. You will never be the same. And now you will know something of the grace of God that you didn't know before. And he was right. And I'm forever grateful for the advice that he gave me in that moment. And I passed it on to younger pastors now because it does. If you will allow it, you can get better, you can get crusty, you can, but if you will allow it, it will change you. So
I bet.
Yeah.
Now, when you guys started walking with us, Kyle, and you do not have to share anything that he shared with you in private, obviously, but I know for him, he was really scared to die.
Yeah. He
was scared of Judgment Day, or when was he going to go to heaven? And my husband was an amazing man. He did not do anything, awful. That would, you know what I'm saying? But he was scared.
Sure. Yeah.
So how do you walk with somebody and reassure them? And I mean, I know he had a lot of questions about the things that he had done.
Yeah. And that's common. At the same time, I'd rather walk with somebody through that when they're scared, because at least it makes me feel like they're being honest, than somebody who's kind of defiantly refusing to admit that they're scared or they have concerns about it or something like that. I mean, Kyle was very honest in how he wrestled with that, and I'm grateful for that. It's different things for different people, but of course, what I believe and what we teach in the Christian faith is that it's not that it's not about what you've done, right? We've all made mistakes. We've all hurt people. We've all contributed to the horrible way of life, the way life is sometimes, by hurting other people and that kind of thing. We're selfish by nature. And all of us, if we're honest and take an assessment of our lives, are going to look at our lives and go, there are things I wish I'd have done differently. There's things I regret. There's things I wish someone could forgive me for. Will God forgive me for this? We all have this sense. Even people who aren't in the Christian faith, I think, have this sense that if there is a God, there's something about him that is holy, that is apart from our lives, that God wouldn't make mistakes the way we would make mistakes. And so we all go, can I be forgiven for that? Am I good enough to not worry about death and not worry about my relationship with God? And the promise of the Christian faith is that no matter what you've done, that God is actually for you and would actually go to great lengths to not lose you in a relationship. In fact, the lengths that he went through was that Jesus died on the cross for us. And so there's an old liturgy that says this proves God's love for us, that he died on the cross so that we could be forgiven. And that was a lot of what I was walking through with Kyle and with you in those days was, and to some degree you already knew it, but in the moment it's like the rubber meets the road. Yeah, no, this is what the grace of Jesus is all about. You are forgiven, right? And so you're not now trying to make amends with the wrong that you've done in this life. That's an important practice that we can do in life. But when we're talking about what happens after we die, all we have to do is trust that Jesus is enough. And we don't have any other hope. Like, that's it. And so that was what Kyle was just trying to come to terms with. I think he believed it, but I think he was wrestling with it. And I don't know if you remember this, and this gets kind of personal, so you stop me.
No, go for it.
We were in the hospital room, I think within a few days of when Kyle passed. And he was in one of those places that you get to where he was in and out of consciousness. And when he would wake up, it was hard. And I was in that room with you for a few hours that day. And he would wake up and he would struggle and fight and try to figure out where he was and what was happening, and then he would fall back asleep. But then there were these moments in that where he would wake up and he would like think of something and say it to you, or he would look at me and realize he'd like look. I remember a couple times he looked at me and he went, "Oh, hey, Tim," and it was like, "Yeah, I'm here," So he would really be lucid for moments. In the throes of that, I don't know if you remember this, but there was one moment where I said, "Kyle, what are you and I have had a lot of conversations. What are you feeling right now?" And do you remember what he said?
Peace. Yeah, I do remember that.
And I remember looking at you and going, "That's it."
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I want to thank you for being there with us, by the way, through all that.
You don't have to.
It was, towards the end, and most people don't know this, but, you start to go in and out of consciousness and hallucinate and try to get out of your body, try to get out of the hospital bed. I mean, it was not, it's not a pleasant thing.
No.
It really isn't. It was scary.
There's nothing pleasant about it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a part of life that we really don't like to talk about and think about.
People don't.
Yeah.
And I remember being there, and the nurses would come in and out, but I was there by myself with him, and he would try to get out of bed, and I had to like get up and literally like wrestle him back onto the bed because he wanted to get out of there. It was a wild experience. So, but yeah, I do remember you being there a lot, especially towards the end. And I just can't thank you enough because that was the most difficult, obviously, the most difficult thing that I've ever been through.
Yeah, for sure.
And hopefully will ever go through.
Well, and now you know the other side of the story, Kira, which is there was always a part of me that did not want to be in that room with you. Like, why would I want to go through that with you, right? It wasn't my husband in the bed. And yet at the same time, how could I not? You know, to watch a friend go through, and you guys were friends, to watch you go through that in that moment, like... that's why I call it the inner sanctum of pastoral ministry. There was literally no place I would have rather been than in that room with you all, even as we went through that. And I like for people who are listening or watching, I know we're not trying to be dramatic or draw people into a moment that's so painful, but chances are a lot of people have experienced something really similar. And we just don't, it's very uncomfortable for us to talk about.
Right. Yes, I've been recently, a widow friend of mine have a project we're working on, and something we talk about is people are afraid of death, and so they don't know what to say a lot of times. And like people don't ask me about Kyle, who he was, his experiences, and I wish people would, you know, and I think people are afraid of triggering or causing it, you know, some sort of unwanted thoughts or emotions. But I would love to tell people who Kyle was and the amazing things about him and the adventures he took. But people don't ask about him.
Yeah.
Right. And for those of you listening, all of us widows feel that way. We like talking about, well, I shouldn't say all of us. Can't speak for everybody, but we like talking about them.
Yeah.
They're still alive in our minds. They're still part of our family.
And telling stories is a part of what helps us come to terms.
Yes, and process.
And find our own peace in what we're going through. And so all of you who are listening to this, you're on notice, right? Now you know. Kira would like for you to ask those questions. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she's the woman who developed the 5 stages of grief that we all know now. It's famous, right? She developed that because I can't remember what she was doing professionally, but something put her in a hospital setting where people were actively in the process of dying. And she noticed that no one was talking to them. And so she started boldly, and I think it was kind of controversial if I read it right, she started going into those rooms and saying, do you mind if I ask you some questions about dying? Since you're in the middle of that right now. And she was shocked at how much people wanted to share what that was like and how much it opened them up. And that's what started her study into grief and all of that. And so, I don't know if it's an American thing or if it's a 20th, 21st century thing or if it's human. It's probably all of the above. But we really don't like to talk about those kinds of things. And yet, believe it or not, Kara, I think this connects back to what we were talking about with our kids. It's real life. And it's rich, you know? And so when people ask me now, having stepped away from that role of pastor and kind of doing my own thing now, and I'm still at the Crossing and love it there, but I'm not on staff. When people ask me about my time there and what stands out to me and what were the most important things, of course, I would talk about my teaching opportunities, some of the places in the world I got to visit, some of the really cool stuff. But the thing that stands out to me is the times that I got to go through grief with families. And like that moment where Kyle, in the middle of the horror of what we were going through, what you were going through in that room, for him to look at us in that moment, and he was not comfortable, and to say, peace, I feel peace.
I'll never forget it.
I will never forget it. That has an impression on my life that will stay with me until it's my turn. Which
I was going to say, because we all are going to die, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
We are.
That's right.
What was I was thinking as you were just speaking there? I don't remember. But so then we went to the Evelyn's house, and you came and visited while we were there.
Okay. Yes. I did not. You went there and I didn't get a chance to, I can't remember, but I wasn't there. My last time with Kyle was the
hospital
time we were talking about.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I remember you being there and you and I were texting a lot in those days, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of his friends came in. No, that's okay.
Yeah. I like that you remembered that. Let's
thought,
say I was there.
Yeah,
I was
thought
there.
for sure. But anyway.
No, sorry. Yeah. But we did then, after Kyle passed, we started to plan the funeral. And that was another really powerful moment. I got to be a part of that with you, but to see how many people showed up to support you guys, people from the medical community because of the impact you had in cancer research and all that kind of stuff, and then people from Ed Jones who all came to support you guys, and some of the words that were spoken by some of the people who you asked to speak at the funeral. It was one of those, gosh, this is really hard. Everyone's going, I don't know how Kara's going to do it with these 3 kids, and how will she get on with it? And oh my gosh, we're going to miss Kyle, and this is such a tragic thing, and all of that. But at the same time, there was so much celebration in the room for all the relationships that were there, for the impact that the 2 of you have had on people's lives in all these different ways, and for the hope that we knew that Kyle's story wasn't over.
Yeah, that was incredible. I mean, yeah, again, thank you for doing his funeral, but you're right. A lot of people showed up. He was a very, very, very loved man. Yeah. And he impacted a lot of people's lives while he was alive and now even after. Yeah. And that's what I feel called to keep his legacy alive, not only for my children, but for Kyle and all those that are going to either have or will be getting pancreatic cancer or GI cancer. Yeah. I feel God has called me to do that. And so, I hate when people say everything happens for a reason, and you're like, I don't know, maybe. Yeah. But I do look back and think, with what has happened, there are lives are going to be changed because of it. Yeah. And maybe someday we'll get up there and God will say that's why.
Yeah, there's no question that there'll come a time in eternity where you'll get to be with God, and He'll get an opportunity to go, Kara, let me show you how following me into this story, even as it was painful, let me show you the ripples and the impact that you had and the way that you changed things for people. And so everything does happen for a reason. I actually. I think that's mostly true, right? Okay. But we used to have a saying when we would go into funerals and grief and stuff like that good theology at the wrong time is really bad theology, right? So, and then bad theology is even worse. So, but the idea that we're trying to comfort somebody or placate them by saying, hey, I know this is really hard, but everything happens for a reason, is the last thing you want to say to somebody. I'm saying this into the camera. The last thing you want to say to somebody when they're going through things, right? Because when you're in the moment, there's a lot of anger and fear and questions. And so you want to look at somebody who says that to you and go, is that true? Really? Is that this is happening for a reason? Because I didn't sign up for that, right? Right. The best thing you can say in those moments is, I'm so sorry.
Right. I know it hurts. This is tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
we're here for you.
That's it. Let's go through this together.
Yes. And really be there. And don't stop. Something with my widow friend, we talk about, and a lot of widows will say this because it does stop. The noise stops. Everything stops. Everyone else's lives go on. And then there's silence. And we're left in the dust with our life completely changed. And it goes silent. Yeah. And no one's fault. It's no one's fault, but it happens. And that's why widows will tell you the first year you're pretty much, in a fog. And then the second year is when reality hits. Because everyone's life's moved on. Your life, your reality is your reality. And you start to realize he's never coming back. So I encourage everyone to continue to reach out to widows, even years after their husbands have passed, and anyone else who's lost a family member, because they are still alive and well in our lives, our thoughts, our minds, our actions, our words. And, but it's lonely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my encouragement that I would add on to what you just said is lean into those painful opportunities, you know, because it's where you experience the presence of God in powerful ways. It's where you experience grace and peace in powerful ways. And it's where it's the stuff of life. This is really random, but you just made me think of an author, Andy Crouch, who he said that when he and his wife got married, he's an amazing guy. When he and his wife got married, they made a commitment that if anyone in their life had a wedding, or if anybody died and was having a funeral, that they were going to commit to going. That was just a vow that they made as a married couple. That even unless circumstances prohibited it, they were going to do everything they can. They wouldn't even calculate the cost of the airplane ticket or whatever. They would just go. And he said, because those moments are more than any other moment what life is. And we are to be present with each other in those moments. And I have not lived up to that. When he said it, I looked at my wife and said, we're doing that. And of course we fall short, but
you do the best you can.
We do the best we can. And I've just learned over and over and over again how you'll never go to a funeral. You will never go to a funeral and go, well, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have gone. Right? To be present for that person who is grieving, to see you in the room, even if you don't get to talk to them or shake their hand or hug them or whatever, to see you there makes all the difference.
It really does. It really, really does.
And it's the stuff that life is, it's what we're here for. It's difficult. It's painful, but it's a part of what it means to be human.
Right.
And I just think that's the stuff right there.
My grandpa used to say, you got to marry him and bury him. My dad, has since, and I'm like, okay. And actually, one of my cousins is getting married this weekend. And unfortunately, I can't go because my children have some things, and I'm the solo parent.
Yeah.
So I feel terrible, but but I do go to any wedding or funeral I possibly can.
Yeah,
absolutely. Even given our situation.
I love it.
Because you're right. It's part of life. Okay. Speaking of life.
Yes.
Your life has changed.
That's a turn.
Yeah, it is.
I felt it.
You take a deep breath and have a drink of water.
Life has changed.
Life has changed. So you were at the crossing 18 years.
Yep.
And then God called you to
now
something
what?
else.
I know.
So tell us how,
So I would say this, not to keep it on the heavy side, but I had to go through my own process of grief in the last year where I was at the church, and there's no, I don't know how people think about this. I know in some prominent churches, when a pastor leaves, it's like, oh, there's a lot of question marks around that. There's no controversy.
Right.
There really isn't. There's no story. I love the team there. I'm still at the church. We've got a great relationship. This transition has gone really smooth. I had a friend who said, her name is Sarah. She said this to me, and she gave me language that I didn't have when I was leaving. Like I had already announced my resignation. She said that sometimes it's time to leave when what was once easy is now hard. And there's no other explanation for it. And that's it. The last year, without going into specifics of my time there, all of the things that were so life-giving to me, all of the things that I'd done for all these years, I suddenly found myself in a place where I was uncomfortable and couldn't see a path forward for myself. And felt like I still had things to contribute, felt like I still had ways I wanted to grow, things I wanted to say, put out into the world, those kinds of things, but was not going to be able to continue to do that in the context of being a pastor at the Crossing. And so it was a process of grief more than anything else. Because
you were grieving what once was.
Yeah.
And maybe what you thought was going to be.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I had dreams of retiring from there someday, and we've loved our lives there, and so it just didn't even make sense at one time. But I had to continue to wrestle with a lot of that and grieve through it. And then I remember at one point getting to a place where I had grieved and grieved and grieved and was stuck, and was like, well, what now? What? And the only thing I could think was, I need to do something. I have to take action. it ties into everything we've been talking about already. Like when you're going through grief of any kind, when you lose somebody, when you're stuck, when you go through that year and now you're just in a fog, at some point you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, I just need to do something. I have to take a step. And so for me, that step was to start to imagine what I would do if I wasn't at the church. And so, so that was the stepping away. But what I feel like started to form in my mind, and with the help of others and a lot of wise counsel, I had 5 guys that were all like important people in my life and could speak truth to me, and they were all kind of speaking into my wrestling and all of that. And my wife, obviously, and I even talked to my boys about it a little bit. I started to imagine what could life look like if I did something different. And I've been at it for a little bit less than a year. I'm still figuring it all out. But what I realized is over the years, I know I can communicate. I know I can, both written and speaking. I really enjoy that. I've developed a knack over the years for one-on-one conversations, helping people work through difficult things, and helping people. I guess the best way to put it is understand where they are in their own story.
Yeah.
Whether that's a job transition or end of career. I've been having a lot of retirement conversations with people, people who are struggling in relationship. Where are you in your story? And when you can start to get context and start to feel your feet on the ground, then you start to get a glimpse of where you might need to go next. So I knew I had a knack for that, and then I had just led teams over the years at the church, and we prioritize emotional and organizational health at the Crossing, and so those are chops that I've just developed over the years. So I thought, okay, I think I can help people do that, like in their businesses and in their careers, and as an executive coach or as a consultant for an organization, I can move in and help people figure out where they are in the story and how to move forward together. Human relationships are just something that has always been a top priority for me. I love my friendships. I love relationships. I love helping people get along and all of that. And so I enjoy that. And then the other piece of it is oftentimes what people are missing in their teams or in their careers or in their businesses when they're thinking about strategy and that kind of thing is we avoid confronting the hard facts. Right?
Oh, yeah.
The painful things, the things that have failed that we need to let go of, the relationships that aren't working out, the ways in which trust has deteriorated, the conversations we're unwilling to have, and going through some of the things I went through, even the stuff we've been talking about, grieving with people and all that kind of thing. For some reason, I'm not afraid to go to an executive or to a team or to somebody and say, you're not paying attention to that fact right there, and that's why you're stuck. And so just helping people get unstuck in their relationships and in their businesses is something that I'm finding that I really enjoy doing, even though I'm just getting started.
Awesome.
That was a mouthful. I just gave you a lot there.
No. I got a couple more. I have a couple more questions about that. But first, so you were there 18 years. How did they take it when you told them
that I was leaving? I don't know if I can answer that question. I mean, at first it was hard. They're gracious. Everyone's gracious on that team. And so, I think like any, it came as a surprise. I wasn't trying to surprise anybody, but I kind of was trying to do a good job and didn't want to allude to the fact that, all of that. And so when somebody's surprised with that news, there's a shock and there's a reaction and there's emotion in it, and all of that is present. But they were gracious and patient, and we pretty quickly put a plan in place. Really quickly, going back to the earlier part of my story, the other church that I had worked at, when I left staff at that church under very different circumstances, we had a plan in place for my departure there, and the plan did not execute at all. Some of the leaders there kind of, honestly just kind of failed to keep up their end of the bargain, and it didn't go well. At the Crossing, it was the opposite. It was, here's what we're going to do. Do we all agree? Yes, that makes sense. And then we executed the plan.
Awesome.
And I'm humbled by how well they treated me. The Crossing is a generous, kind church. The leadership there is generous and kind, and they exhibited all of that to me as I stepped off. Even as ministry doesn't rise and fall on Tim Bounds. I know, like, the church is fine. They're moving forward. They're doing awesome stuff. It's great. So even as it was difficult, though, we still stuck to loving each other well through it. And I remember Greg saying at one point, this is an opportunity for us to model for other churches how to do this well. And I said, I couldn't agree more. And so that's what we've been striving to do ever since. And
awesome.
I'm jumping back onto the music team. I'm playing guitar in the band at the Crossing now, and that's really fun for me. And get to hang out with my music friends. And so it's been great.
I love it. Yeah. Well, and just as someone that attended the Crossing, we're now at a different church, but you were going to be the next up. In all of our minds, you were going to be the next pastor when Greg retired. Yeah. And no one ever said anything. It was just assumed. Yeah. And so when you left, I know it was a big shock to a lot of people, not only the staff, but also all the parishioners.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that was a perception for people because I was teaching a lot. Outside of Greg, I was probably the second loudest voice on the team,
and really powerful and moved. I mean, I've already said, and I'm not just fluffing your feathers. Like, truly, an amazing pastor, and really helped people grow in their faith. I know for Kyle and I certainly did with us. Yeah. I mean, everybody loves you.
Well, thanks. And it was a privilege. And I mean, it was all a, for me, looking at it going, how do I get to do this? And why am I so blessed to be able to do that? So it was all awesome. But the Crossing is a very big, complex organization. Most churches are, even smaller churches are complex. And Greg has a lot of gas left in the tank. He's a great pastor. He's running hard and all of that. And I'm cheering him on. There are always conversations about the future of the church and what it looks like. And we certainly were talking about my place in all of that and, all of those things. But ultimately, God's the one who makes his plans, and his plans aren't thwarted. And I'm totally confident that he knows what he's doing and led us to the decisions he led us to. And I can't wait to see where the Crossing goes from here and how I get to continue to be a part of it, as an attender and a volunteer and a servant there. And I love our church, and I love the church, by the way. So, like, even the fact that you're at another place now, like, I love the church you're at because we've talked about it, and so I'm a big fan of the church. But yeah, God's got this. There was a lot going on behind the scenes that people don't know about, not like in an ugly way, but just conversations and strategy and trying to figure out what's the best way for the church to move forward and all of that. And I don't know what else to say about that.
No, that's perfect. That's exactly people. They want to hear from you, and they want to know what you're doing now, which is, I'm excited to see what you do with your business. And I'd like you to tell us, what is the business called?
So I've called it the Andersen Company.
The Andersen Company.
People who are part of the Crossing community will kind of go, that kind of has an echo to it of some of the oneness that we talk about there, and that's on purpose. And it's a musical term too, so that's, But yeah, the idea is ultimately to help people in human relationships get on the same page with each other and build trust in organizations, and also build kind of unity, a unison within ourselves as we're trying to figure out our career and where we're headed and all of that. So that's what I'm doing, and speaking in some places and getting to do podcasts with good friends and that kind of thing. So I'm still in the early stages. Anybody who's started a business knows, it's some things are taking shape, but it's also still, I'm trying a lot of different things and trying to be available wherever I'm needed.
And there's bumps in the road and turns you're going to have to take. I mean, you're sitting at an entrepreneurs club. Yeah. So we're very familiar with that.
Yeah, there's people on the other side of this wall that know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly. So who is your, who would be your clients? Who hires you? At what point in your, what kind of business? And at what point do you need to hire someone like you?
So I'll be really specific.
Yes, I'd like you to be.
Yeah. So on the one hand, I really have started to discover these conversations about retirement. You and I have just spent a lot of time talking about grief. Grief is a really important part of retirement. There's a lot of people, you might be listening and going, I'm nearing that stage of life. It's time for me to start thinking about retirement. The financial side is one thing. I can't help you with that. But I'm terrified of, what do I do? What happens to my identity in retirement? How do I make sure that that I'm still living life on purpose and getting to prioritize things that are important to me? And you might even be in a situation where your company or the company that you own, you're starting to get this sense of, I'm not going to be helpful in this setting for much longer, or I think maybe some people would be happier if I would step out. Like it's maybe time for me. We all go through those kinds of transitions. Right. That is kind of a group of people that I love working with. I've had some real cool engagements with people where we've been able to help them prepare for retirement. So that's the first audience. And then the second audience is if you have a business with a team, anywhere from 6 to 20 people, and there's any kind of dysfunction, which I realize is like all teams, right? That's just part of being human. But it's like, yeah, we've gone with other consultants. They've done assessments. They've gone through the data. Here's what it showed us, and yet we still feel stuck. I feel like so-and-so isn't doing their job to the best of their ability. I feel like I've lost my ability to communicate with the team in this way. I'm not sure a couple people are slotted in the right place. The truth of the matter is, most organizations that have teams that complex, you have so many other things vying for your attention. You're trying to run in the right direction. You're trying to complete your mission. You're trying to fulfill obligations and drive results and all of those kinds of things. You may not have time to actually dig into the human side of things and figure out what's going on beneath the surface that's causing the erosion of trust, that's causing the dysfunction, that's causing the people being misslotted and that kind of thing. That's where I would absolutely love to step into that with you and help.
Love that.
So let me know.
Love that.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about writing a book?
Oh yeah. I've thought about it for years. Turns out writing is a discipline that I'm still trying to figure out how to cultivate. But one of these days, there's no question that some of these thoughts that are knocking around inside my head will end up on paper, and I can't wait to share it with people.
That'd be awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, stay tuned. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I do ask all my guests to, I don't know what just came out of my mouth, but leave one thing for our audience. What if there was one thing you wanted to leave them with or wanted them to take away from our show today? Yeah.
Well, I think based on everything we've talked about, lean into the pain. You can go to different faith traditions. The Jewish tradition has this tremendous history of lament, this tradition of lament, which is really important to them. The Buddhist faith, if you go down that, they talk about suffering, and that their whole religion is the idea of trying to escape from the cessation of suffering, which is really for them the cessation of desire. And we could get into if that's helpful or not, but that's a tradition. And then the Christian faith, Jesus says, in this world you will have trouble. That is a reality of life. And we live in 21st century America that has tried for the last 100 years to remove as much difficulty and make us as comfortable as possible. And in many ways, we've done it. I mean, the technology, the home appliances, air conditioning, like those kinds of things, we've made life very comfortable. And we can be grateful for that. But we are still human. And life is full of disappointment and pain and failure and death and grief. And the only way out of those kinds of things is through them. So don't be afraid to lean into that and surround yourself with people who will help you navigate them. My grandma used to say, it's a good life if you don't weaken. Wow. And I think that's where our strength comes from, is when we can go, okay, I should expect this. This is what human life is about, and so I'm going to lean into it. That was a really long answer, but that's what I hope I can leave people with.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Kara.
Yeah.
You're awesome. I cannot express to people who are watching just what a grace and a joy and a gift it's been to be your friend for these years. And even with what all we walked through together, I wouldn't trade it. And it means so much to me that we would get to have this conversation like this today. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I feel the exact same way. You've been a blessing in my life. And, we will continue this friendship. And I'm excited to see what we do, right?
Sounds awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Yes We Can podcast. We'll be back next week, Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time.
What if you could start your day feeling loose, relaxed, and ready? Deep hydrotherapy right in your backyard. Relax with your family or friends, or work out with our Michael Phelps Edition Swim Spas. Worried about maintenance? We have factory-trained service nearby whenever you need it. Plus, we're here for you long-term if you have any questions or need to refill supplies. You can even test spas at our showrooms. Spas and More, A+ rated, locally owned for 20 years. We put the in spa.